Hello, and welcome back to another episode of It's Fine. So, parasocial relationships, I feel, are more common and more popular nowadays with us living in the digital age and the fact that we have the internet and social media. And I feel like parasocial relationships are not talked about enough. So that is what this entire episode is going to be about. So if you don't know what a parasocial relationship is, Cleveland Clinic describes them as one-sided relationships or bonds with people that you don't know. Usually it's with celebrities, but it can also be with a fictional character, whether it's from like a book, a movie, or a play, or whatever the case may be. But it's almost kind of like an imaginary friend in a way, right? Because it's almost like you have this like deep connection with somebody that you don't like actually know, who has no idea you really exist or doesn't even exist at all. And The Atlantic published an article called Parasocial Relationships Are Just Imaginary Friends for Adults. And they said that if you get too invested in a fake friendship, your real ones might suffer. The article went on to say that this is the very common tendency to create and cultivate a relationship in your mind between yourself and someone you don't actually know or who perhaps doesn't even exist at all. It can range from harmless affection to full blown fictional love connection, which some social scientists called fictophilia, and which can feel stronger than a real life tie. And the question is, like, how do these happen? Well, according to Cleveland Clinic, a parasocial relationship forms as similarly to a regular relationship through repeated exposure that creates a sense of intimacy and a perceived connection, which makes sense in the fact that it's no surprise that this happens a lot with celebrities, especially, I feel like this is more common with like artists because artists publish music that may be very personal or about their lives, thus leading people to feel like they have some sort of like emotional connection with the celebrity because they can relate to them in some regard. And I feel like these types of relationships are even more common with the rise of social media because now with social media, celebrities and influencers can publish so much stuff about their lives online, making fans feel like they're even more deeply connected with these like celebrities and influencers, even though these celebrities and influencers don't even know that this particular fan exists. And this fan doesn't actually know these people, they just know whatever it is these celebrities or influencers publish on the internet or like their art, whether it's like music or movies or whatever the case may be. So there's actually a few different types of parasocial relationships. There are three to be exact. In 2006, researchers David Giles and John Maltby classified parasocial relationships into three subcategories. So the first is entertainment social. This is the most common one. This is where you're a fan of a celebrity or character because you find them compelling. You know that you don't actually know the person, but you still find them interesting. And I would argue that just about all of us have at least one parasocial relationship in our lives where there is like maybe an artist, maybe there's a podcaster, maybe there's like a social media influencer that we are a fan of, that we know that we don't actually know them, but we really like the content that they create or the art that they create. And it almost feels like we have like some sort of connection to that person. Now, the next one is intense personal. This is a more intense version of the entertainment social relationship, and it's where you have intensive and compulsive feelings about the celebrity that you have like a difficult time controlling. So, for example, this is where you're in a sort of situation where you feel like you need to constantly check this person's social media accounts, or this parasocial relationship prevents you from forming close bonds with people in your real life. And lastly, there is borderline pathological parasocial relationships. This is where a person can no longer control their thoughts, feelings, and in some cases, their behavior. Borderline pathological parasocial relationship may lead to stalking or violence. Now, these are the types of relationships where you have fans that are so wildly obsessed with a celebrity per se, and it leads them to like stalking them, to, thinking that they're in love with them, all of those types of like relationships or those types of behaviors I feel like could be categorized as a borderline pathological parasocial relationship. Like I said, I feel that it's no surprise that parasocial relationships are such a common thing nowadays, whether we realize it or not, just because of social media. Social media allows people to post so much about their lives so easily that it almost feels like allows people to know like these influencers and these celebrities in a way that was not possible prior. Because if you think about it, before the internet, all people knew about celebrities was their art, whether it be like, the movies that they're in, the music that they publish, and whatever news outlets would publish about them, and like the interviews that they did. That's it. Now artists had the capability to publish whatever they want on social media. And now people can make an entire career publishing content about their lives. And, it almost kind of feels like many people, in a way, attempt to create parasocial relationships with their followers. I don't think that they do this consciously. I don't think that they're like sitting there being very manipulative about it, thinking, oh, well, I'm going to, you know, create this parasocial relationship so my fans love me, so then they will keep consuming my content. I don't think they necessarily think about it that way, but I think that's kind of how it happens, right? I mean, okay, look at how some of these influencers act. Like, many influencers post vlogs outlining their entire lives. I've even seen videos of influencers like say that they feel that they need to share certain things with their followers when they don't technically have to. There's nothing that's like forcing them to do it, really. I've even seen there's one influencer that I've seen, and I can't remember her name, but a lot of the videos that she posts is where she basically shows off two outfits and she lets her users pick what she's going to wear that day, almost allowing her followers to have like actual control over her life. And a lot of influencers constantly talk about their communities and how important they are to them, sort of like creating that relationship with their followers. It's so interesting in a way. Especially like that whole idea of like building an online community, even though, like, if you truly think about it, like, your followers don't really know you if you're an influencer, and you don't know them really at all. I mean, your followers might know you to some sort of an extent based on whatever it is that you decide to publish, but at the end of the day, I mean, it still is like edited videos. It's still curated in a way. It's not like truly authentically you, because they don't actually know you in real life. They don't know how you act in an unfiltered fashion. But in a way, it also does make sense that these followers feel so connected to these influencers, because a lot of these influencers, especially, are sharing so much about their lives. And I mean, think about it. Like, especially when it comes to like people who post vlogs all the time. Like, okay, like Sam Solik, I think he posts a vlog every single day. If somebody is actively watching that vlog every single day, they're like 30 to 40 minutes piece. Like, if you're watching these videos for 30 to 40 minutes a piece, like, somebody might basically be spending more time with Sam Solik than they're spending with their friends if they only see their friends for like maybe 2 hours a week. So again, it like does make sense why so many people feel so strongly like connected to these people online that they don't actually know in real life. And when it comes to celebrities, I think Taylor Swift is the prime example of a celebrity whose actions do kind of contribute to this type of relationship with her fans, whether it's intentional or not. So I actually stumbled across the Taylor Swift Reddit thread while doing research for this episode, and I found this post from a user that's at It's the Nugget, And they made a post titled Parasocial Relationships and Taylor's Role in Creating Them. And in it, she talks about how it's no surprise that fans have such a strong parasocial relationship with her. And I actually wanted to read a part of this post because I think whoever wrote this wrote it like perfectly described what it is that I'm trying to talk about. So the user wrote, Taylor has intentionally made it possible for her fans to know more about her than she will ever know about any of us. This does not excuse fans to be invasive, but it does explain how this parasocial relationship was built and why fans experience and express feelings of joy, disappointment, pride, anger, sadness, and gratefulness towards her actions, words, and choices. To dismiss the feelings of her individual fans due to the parasocial nature of the relationship is to dismiss the larger context. If we are not going to dismiss Taylor's feelings when she says her well being depends on the support of millions of people she will never meet, we cannot unequally dismiss the feelings of her fans when they say her actions affect them too, for better or for worse. And Taylor Swift, she's been in the music industry since 2003. She's written deeply personal and autobiographical songs. Fans know so much about her life. And, like this person wrote, if Taylor Swift is speaking in a way where she, basically says that her well being depends on the support of her fans. I mean, her fans literally have a name, Swifties. Most people, when they hear the word Swifties, know it's somebody who feels like they are like a super fan of Taylor Swift's and almost feel like they're like deeply connected to her in a similar fashion to other people who identify themselves as Swifties. Like, it's no surprise that people do feel like they have this connection towards her and they feel like they almost know her in a way. But as the user said, people do have to truly remember that they don't know her. They don't actually know Taylor Swift. A lot of these people probably have never met her, probably will have never met her. And I will say, I do believe a lot of people forget that whenever they have this like deep parasocial relationship. They like forget that they don't actually know this person. And maybe it's just because of the way people act online, but it sometimes feels like these people almost feel like they have a relationship with this celebrity and the celebrity like owes them something in a weird way. Whether it's like they owe them, I don't know how to put it, but like it's just like the way people act. It almost feels like they act like this artist or celebrity owes them something because they've been a fan for so long and they've supported them for so long, even though that artist or celebrity has no idea they even exist. And I think Chapel Roan is an artist who has been very vocal about basically pushing back against parasocial relationships. So People wrote an article about this, and back in August of last year, Chapel Roan posted a message on Instagram asking fans to respect her boundaries regarding non consensual physical and social interactions. So, she basically wrote about the fact that for 10 years she has been working so hard to become an artist, and she feels like she needs to draw lines and set boundaries with her fans. So she reminded people that she did choose this career path because she loves music and art, but she does not accept harassment of any kind because she chose this path, nor does she deserve that. I don't blame her for setting this boundary of stating, like, yes, I know that I picked this career path. I know that I chose to be an artist, and I know with that comes a lot of people knowing who I am and knowing details about my life. But at the end of the day, like, she's pointing out that she doesn't owe people any sort of like physical or social interaction whatsoever. It's just wild. It's just absolutely wild that people do feel like they deserve it because they supported an artist's music. When, if you really think about it, I mean, people listen to people's music because they like the music. I mean, yeah, you might do it because it's like, oh, well, I really like this person, so I'm going to listen to their music and support them because I think they're a good artist. But, like, if you don't want to listen to the music, usually you're not going to. I feel like a lot of people truly actually deep down care more about the art than the artist when it comes to what they choose to consume. And, I even want to touch on the fact that, like, it seems like people, for some reason, deeply care about what artists believe, whether it's about politics or religion or just like what their values are. Um, and I mean, you have a right to care about that. I'm not saying that people don't. Like, if you don't like things that artists believe in and therefore you don't want to consume their art anymore, you have every right to do that. But I think, especially when it comes to Chapel Roan, such an interesting thing that happened a couple of months ago is Chapel Roan. Chapel Roan was on an episode of the Call Her Daddy podcast, and the host, Alex Cooper, asked Chapel Roan if she wanted kids, and she seemed unsure. She basically said that all of her friends who have kids are like in hell. She said that, she doesn't know anyone who is like happy and has children at her age, and she's 27. And she said she's not met anyone who is happy, anyone who has light in their eyes, and anyone who has slept. And this caused a huge debate online, an absolutely huge debate where so many people were like deeply offended by this comment. A lot of parents started publishing videos of like their kids with a caption of, "This is what hell looks like." And obviously, like, it was supposed to be like a juxtaposition of the fact that like the caption said this is what hell looks like, and it was like these adorable videos of them with their kids and they're all super happy. And it was basically like to show that parenting isn't bad. And I think a lot of people miss the point of Chapel Roan's comments. You know, from what I saw, Chapel Roan was talking about her lived experience, basically saying that the people that she knows around her age don't seem to be happy as parents. I don't think I saw anything where she said that parenting is horrible. I don't think I saw anything where she said people shouldn't be parents. She just talked about her experiences. And we have no idea. Like, again, this goes back to the fact that we do not know this person. We do not know Chapel Roan. Most of us have never met Chapel Roan. For all we know, all of her friends have said flat out that they are parents and they feel like they're in hell. That is entirely plausible. Maybe could she have worded it better? Yeah. I mean, it's possible. And you also, like, you don't have to like what she said. I'm not saying that you have to agree with her. I'm not saying that I agree with her. All I'm saying is, like, it's just so interesting that so many people are so offended by her opinion, but her opinion literally has no effect on your life whatsoever unless you give it meaning. That's it. And I get that some people are very concerned about the effect that celebrities can have on the general public. Because again, we're talking about parasocial relationships, and I've touched on the fact that sometimes these parasocial relationships can be very strong. I'm not going to deny the fact that celebrities can have an effect on society, but I think we all need to remember that these celebrities do not have an effect on our lives if we do not allow it. If you don't like what she said about children, you never have to listen to that episode again. You don't. And if you don't like what artists have to say about certain topics, like, you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to agree with them. I mean, we're not going to agree with everyone on every topic in the world. That is how the world works. But there again, I just think it's so interesting that so many people get so deeply offended about or by what celebrities say. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of these parasocial relationships. People feel like they are connected to these celebrities, to these influencers, to these artists. And then when these celebrities, influencers, or artists say something that they don't agree with, they almost like feel deeply hurt by it in a way. Even though, again, that person's opinion does not have to have an effect on your life whatsoever. You can continue to live your life in the way that you want it. These celebrities and influencers don't know you, and you truly don't know them. And I don't blame her for feeling like she had to set that boundary, because depending on what her experience was, maybe she was dealing with a lot of fans who felt like she or they were owed a social interaction with her because they support her and like her music. I mean, I obviously have never had like experiences with a parasocial relationship to that extent, but like even working in radio, I will say it's very like interesting to me how, okay, so I've worked in radio for like 7 years. So that means for 7 years, somebody could have been listening to me on the radio. So they could have like known me for 7 years. And I wouldn't say that I'm like super public about my entire life on the radio. I don't share like every detail about my life, but I wouldn't say I like lie about anything. If that makes sense. I would say I'm pretty authentic on the radio and I'm pretty authentic on this podcast as well. So, like, if I'm out at an event for my radio station, I've had people come up to me and, like, tell me, like, hey, I love your show. I listen to you every day at work, and I've been listening to you for the last few years. And the way that they speak to me, you can tell, like, because they've listened to me for so long, like, they do know a good amount about me. Like, they do know things about me. And they almost feel like they have some form of relationship with me. Like, obviously, like, most of these people, like, probably have, like, that entertainment, social, parasocial relationship with me, where it's like they're a fan of my show. And, like, yeah, obviously they know some details about my life because I do share some details about my life on the radio as I do on this podcast. So it makes sense that, like, they do almost know me in a way, but it's also like interesting to experience in real life. It's interesting to have somebody walk up to me who is an absolute total stranger to me. I couldn't even tell you their name, but they talk to me as if they know me. And again, I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, I'm extremely grateful for the people who listen to this podcast, who listen to my radio show, and who, like, basically make me a part of their lives. Who, time is, like, the most valuable thing that we have, in my opinion. And, like, they're taking time out of their day to consume my content. And, like, I hope that I'm making a positive impact on their lives, whether it be, with this podcast, I, like, provide information or they, like, reflect on things. Or, if they're, like, listening to my radio show, maybe, I bring, like, joy to their day because I know on my radio show, I try to be funny. I try to, like, make jokes, to bring some positivity to people's day, especially because my show is during the work day. I also give, like, information about, like, the local area as well. Or maybe somebody feels, like, less alone because they consume my content, because I try to be, like, honest about, um, struggles that I've had in the past. I talk a lot about mental health, both on this podcast and on my radio show as well. But whatever the case may be, whatever the reason is that they're consuming my content, again, like, it makes sense that they feel like they do kind of know me. But it's interesting to be on the other side of that relationship where somebody is coming up to you and they feel like deeply connected by you, or maybe I've changed their life and I don't even know them. But it's great to get to meet people and to, like, know that, like, what I'm doing is making a difference in somebody's life, because the reason why I create, like, content and why I work in radio is because my goal is to, like, provide value to somebody's life. That's the way that I view my career. So I love being able to meet people who, truly do love the work that I create. It means so much to me. But like I said, I just think it's so interesting that I am able to see, like, the other side of that parasocial relationship, even just in, like, a very, very minor way. Just to wrap this episode up, I think it's important to remember that even though people can share so much of themselves online, whether they post, like, daily vlogs or they're artists, you technically truly don't necessarily know them. Like I said, like, I'm very authentic on this podcast and very authentic on my radio show. But at the end of the day, I mean, these people don't know me because they've never met me. Like, they know me in a different way than you would in, like, a regular relationship. That's the best way to put it. I've been looking for a way to word this entire time. It's just a different relationship, and you have to remember that. like parasocial relationships are relationships, but they're a different kind. And that's important to remember whenever you're thinking about these like influencers and artists and celebrities. Too, like if you don't like what somebody does or what they think, you're not obligated to consume their content. And I almost feel like we need to remember that as well, because there's so much like discourse online and so many arguments about things, and like cancel culture is such a huge thing. And I think sometimes we forget we have free will, and if we don't like what somebody says or what somebody does, like we literally have the choice to not watch their content and to not let them be a part of our lives. And everything online is curated in some regard. Like this podcast, obviously, I have notes. I prep what I'm gonna say. I'm not flying by the seat of my pants, you know. And when people post things online, those are also curated as well. They may be authentic, but they are curated and edited. That's like the difference. In real life, that is like the true form of authenticity of a person. But online, you can still be authentic, but it is curated, it is planned out, it is edited. You know, I'm not saying that I'm not being authentic to myself. I feel like I'm being very authentic to myself in what I say on here. I would never say anything on here that I didn't actually believe. I think a lot of people who create content are being very authentic to themselves. So, again, in a way, it makes sense why people feel like they know this person, but also like you're going to know me better than I'm ever going to know you because you consume my content and I don't know you, and I've never probably spoken to you unless I know you in real life. But um again, it's just that we almost forget that social, like parasocial relationships are one-sided. And with the internet, it allows them to almost become double-sided and like a real relationship because these influencers and these celebrities can communicate now with their fans very, very easily. And then I feel like the relationships start to get a little weird. Um, then because it starts to blend between parasocial and like a real relationship but not a real relationship. I think they're so complex. I think parasocial relationships are so wildly complex. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything about them because I don't. I try to put in a lot of research into this episode, but at the end of the day, I'm not an expert on this topic. But I think it's something important for every single person to think about because, again, I'm sure a lot of people do have at least like one what they would call a parasocial relationship in their life. And parasocial relationships are starting to get more and more interesting with social media now that fans have a way to interact with these people that they have parasocial relationships with. And of course, we got to remember that our real life relationships are much more important than probably any parasocial relationship that we could ever have. But at the end of the day, whatever the case may be, it's fine.